Hello and welcome to episode 3. I'm your host, Annie Zomaya, lover of pop culture, entertainment, and human creativity. This is Creative Mode. Today's episode is going to be a little bit of a rapid fire, shorter episode because I decided to start all over after giving it some more thought. But that's okay because I think what I'm bringing today is a little bit more valuable. So I want to talk about Stranger Things, which just dropped the first part of the 5th and final season. There will be spoilers for all of Stranger Things, and if you haven't seen Stranger Things and you're not interested in it, then feel free to just listen to my beautiful voice, or you can catch me next week on the next episode. I was going to share my very poorly informed fan theories. However, I feel like I will come to regret that. Instead, I'm just going to talk about the phenomenon that is Stranger Things. It has been a part of our lives for nearly a decade now. It has brought a community of people together, and I think what I love the most about it, Stranger Things asks the audience to use their imagination. It keeps us guessing. And that's what keeps us hooked and engaged. And I think that's actually a good thing because it forces you to think about what's coming next. And guess what? You have to use your imagination. All right? I can't imagine using ChatGPT for this. It asks the audience, it asks the viewer to get creative. That's why it's great. I am aware of the criticism that Part 1 of Season 5 is getting. People are finding the dialogue cringe. I know my friends and I found some of the product placement to be distracting. And then, of course, we can't ignore the fact that the children are now fully grown adults, and Millie Bon Jovi actually has a daughter. I will say, we've got to acknowledge that this is a 4 or 5 year timeline that has been stretched over 10 years because of the pandemic in 2020 and then the writer's strikes in, was it 2023, 2024, which delayed the final season. They've had to work with what they had. I'm okay with setting aside the change in height differences and the fact that these aren't actually children anymore for the sake of the story. What I do like about season 5 though is it brings back an all new child cast. So we have Mike's little sister Holly, who becomes a main character, her classmates, which become supporting characters. So we have Derek, we have the other kids in the class. And fun fact, the elementary school teacher was actually the Duffer Brothers drama teacher in real life. How cool to become these Hollywood superstars and then bring your drama teacher back to be on your hit Netflix show. I love it. I think it's a full circle moment and it's great. And it's a fun little piece of background for fans. For nearly 10 years, this has been a recurring part of our lives. I love it because it gives my friends and I something to talk about every couple years when a new season drops. And we always disagree. We always fight on what we think is happening, what we think the themes are. But that's what makes it so much fun, and that's what makes it so engaging and immersive. I watched the season 5 premiere with my friends, and I say immersive. Okay, I'll be honest, the discussion is sometimes distracting and can break immersion, but it does force you to think a little bit deeper and to watch with a little bit more of a careful eye to pick up on those themes and to pick up on what you think is really happening behind the scenes, what's brewing, and what's happening next. What I think we're really seeing in season 5 is Will is finally growing into his full power, which we saw at the very end of episode 4. His hair changed. So we went from this clean bowl cut that has been his iconic look all throughout the series to a little bit of a messier look as he's coming into his full power. And I love it because hair means a lot, you all. Hair is power. Hair sends a message and it has meaning. So just trust me on this. All right. The girls know. One of my favorite characters is Max, who was introduced in season 2. I really like Max because she is a very strong young female character. She's a fighter. I feel like in another life, I could identify with Max. I think growing up and being misunderstood as a young girl, I definitely do identify with that. However, I think Max has a strength and a confidence that I lacked growing up. I was more of the wallflower type, and so I feel like in another universe, I could have been more like Max, and that's why I really like her. I really like her character, and I am so invested in what her fate will be. She is not going to go down easy. I am so excited to see where she goes and what her ultimate contribution to the overall storyline is. Now for Will, I feel like there's a little bit of a juxtaposition. So he has been a main character since the beginning, since season 1, but I feel personally that most of his development has been objective based. So it's been focused on what's going on around him. He's gotten a little bit of a victim arc, and we haven't seen as much internal personal character development. And I think we are finally getting that this season. So I'm super excited to see where that goes. And we know he has this connection to Vecna and the hive mind. So is he a protagonist? Is he an antagonist? I've seen fan theories from 4 years ago, people predicting that he's going to become the main villain. I don't know. We'll see. I think the fact that he does have this connection to Vecna is going to create a serious conflict as we get closer to the climax of this season and the end of the show. I don't know exactly what that's going to look like. He's literally connected to the antagonist. And when the hive mind feels pain, he feels pain. So how is that going to play into the epic conclusion? And is the overall story even going to be a hero's journey, or is it going to be more of a tragedy? To be honest, it's up in the air for me right now. I have no idea, but I like it that way. I like to be surprised, and I like to talk to other people and read what other people think and what they're saying and what their theories are. One theory that I was talking to my friends about, and they had very mixed opinions. You can flame me if you think I'm wrong. I probably am, to be honest, but I think that interdimensional travel is going to come into play in the second part of this final season, because there's been so much talk about wormholes and other dimensions and Tesseracts, A Wrinkle in Time, which is a fantastic book, by the way. I read it as an adult, and it was just absolutely delightful. If you have kids, have them read it, or read it yourself as an adult. It's that good. So, of course, we've seen Holly and her classmates reading A Wrinkle in Time. We see Vecna as Henry as Mr. Watsit, which is based on Mrs. Watsit, one of the main characters in A Wrinkle in Time. So, dimensional travel, I think that's going to be coming up. And the play, Stranger Things, The First Shadow, which I have not seen, but I have read about and watched recaps of online, goes into more of Henry Krill's backstory and his connection with Dr. Brenner, aka Papa. That also ties into an experiment on the USS Eldridge, which, by the way, was a real-life U.S. Navy ship. It was involved with the Philadelphia experiment. There are tons of conspiracy theories about it in real life. I will leave you to explore that rabbit hole on your own. But interdimensional travel was a part of that, changing blood types, blood transfusions with the test subjects. There's so much to unpack. There's a lot that's going to have to be wrapped up. If we get it all wrapped up, I am sad that it's going to be ending. However, I feel like it has been stretched to the max. I think it would be inappropriate to stretch the storyline out any longer or the timeline any longer. However, let's just acknowledge that Stranger Things, for nearly a decade, has been a cultural reset. It has been a pop phenomenon. It has given us something to come together and talk about. It has built a community. It has introduced complex, unconventional characters like Max, like Eddie Munson. We've seen all these weird, quirky characters come in, and we've celebrated them. It has been an absolute joy. And while I have shared in the frustration about it being stretched out and it taking so long to get seasons 4 and 5, I feel like that really couldn't be helped if we wanted something good that was well thought out, that was put together with fans in mind, and they wanted to give us a good story. And, you know, that's subjective. Is it a good story? I don't know. I can't answer that for you. However, I will say I'm enjoying watching it. I'm enjoying discussing it with my friends. That's actually my favorite part. And while it is a little annoying that we have to watch it in parts because season 5 is being split up into 3 different premieres around the holidays, I actually kind of like it. I think it builds up anticipation. It gives us time to think about what's happening next. It gives us time to discuss it with our friends, with other people, with other fans, come up with our own theories, and use our imagination. And that's what it's about, right? Using your imagination, because imagination is what brings these things to life. What will be the next Stranger Things? I don't know. This has been iconic. Stranger Things has existed for the entirety of my 20s. So for the rest of my life, it will be a cultural phenomenon that reminds me of my 20s. And I absolutely love that, you know? It's like maybe my generation's Star Wars or something. I don't know. I want to know what your theories are. What do you think is coming up? What am I wrong about? What am I not asking? What's something that you want answered in this final season? Who's your favorite character? Let me know. I want to talk about these things. You can find me on Instagram at Annie Zomaya. If you know me in real life, you know how to reach me. Thanks for sticking with me and listening to my dubious fan theories and rant this week. Thanks so much for tuning in. I will catch you again next week.